Okay, Oscar, you've signed with the San Diego Padres. Why the Padres?
Well, the Padres gave me the best deal, and I was waiting on the best deal, and I think, they made me a fair offer, and I'm happy to be going out to San Diego.
Okay, we've heard that offer is $3 million for 6 years. Is that correct?
Well, it was a long-term contract, I can put it that way. I didn't want to discuss the figures, but, it was a 6-year contract.
Okay, was there anything else that went into consideration besides the actual dollars to sign with the Padres?
Well, the Padres, they had some good ideas that they, wanted me to work with the kids and stuff like that, I think I've been hearing a lot of talk about San Diego town, and I'm looking forward to seeing the town. I was out there a couple of times, when I was with Philly, and I like the weather, and always wanted to play on the West Coast.
Okay, they didn't really have a strong team overall, but the outfield was pretty solid. Do you think you can crack the starting outfield?
Well, yes. I think, I can start out there in the outfield because I think, I was looking at it, and I think they need a left-hand power hitter, and I consider myself a left-hand power hitter. And, most of their lineup was right-handed, and we, went over the teams that needed a left-hand hitter, and the Padres was one of the teams.
You think that the artificial surfaces that they have in the National League will favor your type of play?
Well, I think so. I think the ball, travel fast on the AstroTurf, and I think, I can get more hits by playing on the AstroTurf. But in the long run, I think, the AstroTurf is bad on your leg.
I understand that George Hendrick is a pretty good friend of yours, and you'll be reunited there, and yet you'll probably be competing with him for an outfield spot. How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm looking forward to playing with George. I think he's one of the better players in the league, and we was good friends and roommates when we were with Cleveland, and I think it'd be great to play with him again.
Imagine you're pretty happy to have this all over with, though, the signing.
Well, yes, I'm glad it's finally, over with, and I'm looking forward to the season starting now.
Well, Dan, I tell you, I think the effort that we've put into this season, and we lost a lot of folks off last year's team, and our seniors have done a super job with their leadership. Of course, you can't have an outstanding team unless you have good senior leadership, and they dedicated themselves to getting back in the finals this year. And of course, if we can get by Notasulga this week, we'll have another shot at that state title.
So far this year, I think our defense has been outstanding. We had 9 returning lettermen on defense from last year, and we feel like our defense has been our strong point. We thought at the beginning of the year that our offensive unit was going to be stronger because of the experience in our offensive line, but since the season started, our defense has really come around and done a good job. At this time, our defense is only giving up 2 points a game. That's our first defense. But in this ball game with Stan Hope Elmore, I don't know if we're going to be able to stick up for that or not.
Well, Dan, we think we've had real togetherness all the year. We hadn't had any real individual stars. We have 22 starters, and all of them have been worked real good together and gotten along real well together, and that's been the main success for us. Our defenses came through late real well for us. Of course, our offensive line were veteran backs from last year, and they've done a real fine job. Of course, our offensive backs were all young to start with and hadn't played in the offense before, but came through real well for us.
They are really sound. They are the soundest football team we've played. They just do a super job on defense. And Blankenship is a fine running back. He's the best we've seen this year, I believe. They're just a good football team.
What makes Blankenship such a good runner? He's not that big.
Well, God gives some of us a certain talent that you can see the whole field, and you know where to cut, and you know exactly what to do, and he's got it.
Apparently this happened in a robbery of this grocery store where we found that the daily receipts had been taken. Mr. Adams was found inside of the store, and he was transported to Jackson ER where an attempt was made to save his life, but he was DOA at that time. We're now in the process of looking for a white male and a black male driving a white Volkswagen. This automobile is bearing tag DUA034. It's an Alabama tag.
Is that a Montgomery County tag?
No, sir, it's an out-of-county tag. I don't have the county presently, but they were seen leaving this scene directly after. Some customers left the store. Mr. Adams was alive at that time, so we are looking for these two people now.
But were there people in the store at this time, you know?
We don't know about that, but we do have some witnesses that saw these two leave the store, so we have some witnesses and also some physical evidence to put them back with the store. We're now in the process of looking for two similar people on another robbery that occurred back a few days ago on the south side of town, where an individual was robbed by a black and white fitting the same description. The possibility the two are tied up, and we can't say for sure at this time.
Have you had any lead at all where they might be?
No, no, sir, not right now.
do not have any more than usual this year on it, Clark. We have assigned the balance that we had pre-filed just a few days ago, and I believe at that time we had about 41 bells, which is not unusual at all. I do anticipate now the next 30 to 60 days that we'll have a much larger number.
Are there any particular problems that are becoming obvious at this time?
Well, I think yes. We are going to have to, of course, address ourselves to the unemployment compensation legislation early in January, either in special session at the very outset of the regular session. This must be done. Of course, the ad valorem tax ceiling bill, commonly referred to as a lid law, it will surface very early, I'm certain, because people are becoming quite disturbed throughout the state now with their reevaluation in what the ad valorem tax is going to be after the reappraisal. And we have the common problem of budgeting in the general fund. Those that have appeared before the budget committee, that is, now this is the governor's budget committee, not the legislative committee. It's already been indicated, of course, that we're falling far short on revenue in the general fund, Medicaid, the court system, pensions and security, various areas, and this is going to be a real problem.
We've been trying all week to figure out just how to do that. What we're going to try to do is keep them giving them the big play. They've been getting the big play all year long with people that are taking chances on defense, and what we're going to do is try to line up in a sound defense, play everything a little bit, and hope that they drop the ball occasionally and try to keep them from getting that big, long gain on us.
And Lucia is a ball control team. They have an excellent offensive line and done a real good job all year. We going to have to stop the fullback inside and their option off of it and keep them from controlling the ball if we're going to beat them.
Well, all I have done for the last two ball games when I've heard this talk is look at the scoreboard and smile. I think luck plays a part in it. I think no team could get this far if it weren't a good football team. If you're not lucky sometimes, if I was playing poker and I drew to an inside straight, I'd have just as much fun spending that $1 million as I would with somebody sitting there with something else, you know. So we're just happy to be where we are. And I think our children have done a good job, and I have to commend them.
Oscar signed a long-term 6-year contract which has a payout of $2.85 million. Oscar gets a good bonus, several $100,000 a year, and then he has deferred compensation which will take him up to the age of approximately 50 years old.
Okay, how does that compare with some of the other ball players that have signed free agent contracts?
Well, I think Montgomery could be proud of Oscar. Oscar's contract puts him in the top 6 or 7 ball players in the free agent draft, up there with the likes of Reggie Jackson and Catfish Hunter.
Okay, I'm going to direct this question to Oscar. Oscar, you had a great year with Chicago, but very few people are ready to classify you as a superstar yet. Do you think you're worth $2.85 million?
Well, I think so. Like I was a free agent, and like I don't think they, classified, the same as when you was a free agent. Like it's different. The teams bid on you, And like if I was just playing, you know, for the same team, I don't think I'd be worth it. But like if they bid, and you know, I go with the highest bidder.
Okay, I don't know who wants to answer this question. How much money will Oscar actually see out of that $2.85 million?
Well, except for what Uncle Sam's going to take out of it, minus the expenses and fees of the attorneys, all the rest of it, he'll get well over 60% of that money because of the deferred compensation. Uncle Sam will take 99% of the rest of it.
Okay, why was Oscar Gamble able to get so much, not being a superstar yet?
Well, I look at Oscar as the dark horse of all the free agents. As the baseball fans will know, the average ball player gets up about 600 times a year. Oscar got up last year only 400 times. During that period, he hit as many home runs and knocked in as many RBIs and batted almost 300. His home run frequency average, which is the number of home runs per time at bat, led the American League. And we're hoping when Oscar gets out there and gets a chance to play full time, which he will in San Diego, he ought to be hitting 40, 45 home runs.
Out of bounds across the 6-yard.
We talked to Mr. Belladolls.
See, I don't have any statement to make about it this time. I will later, at an appropriate time, but not now.
Nothing on your health? Is how you're feeling?
Well,
this is the first day that you put in a full day. How are you feeling?
Well, I haven't put in a full day. I spent the middle of the day in the bed.
But you feeling okay?
Yeah, pretty good.
The question of open court to the public when hearings are held in the Wallace divorce case consumed most of the 90 minutes proceedings today before the Alabama Civil Court of Appeals. No pictures of the proceedings were permitted because all parties involved would not agree to it.
Apparently, he's not recuperating well. The story says that Johnson is discouraged about.
Yeah, we can go down this one.
The three-judge civil appeals court must decide whether Circuit Court Judge John Davis III might be too impartial in the Wallace's divorce suit They must also consider whether the proceedings of the divorce will be public, both matters they have under advisement. Davis has twice denied Mrs. Wallace's petitions to relinquish the divorce case. A pre-trial conference on the divorce has been scheduled by Davis for early December. Lawyers for Mrs. Wallace have argued that Davis could not be objective about the divorce because they claim his father, John Davis, secured the judgeship for his son, and that the elder Davis contributed to Wallace's campaigns and persuaded the governor to appoint the younger Davis to the court in Montgomery. The 58-year-old governor filed for divorce in September, charging incompatibility. 38-year-old Mrs. Wallace has charged physical violence and cruelty in her cross-complaint. The Wallace's domestic problems became public knowledge in September of last year when Wallace confirmed on live TV that his wife had taped his private telephone conversations, something he said at that time would be resolved. Mrs. Wallace claims she bugged the phone of the governor to find out who had been spreading destructive rumors about her. George Mitchell, WSFA TV News, reporting from the Alabama Civil Court of Appeals.
This program has been in effect since 1969 when Brooklyn closed. There was a commitment made at that time that all the people would have a job opportunity or a job offer, and this is when this program was implemented. So it has been around since 1969. It is not unique just for the Craig people.
It was great. Fantastic, in fact. We were very pleased to be here. My alternatives were Loring, Maine, Maelstrom, Montana, and possibly Del Rio, Texas.
So this gave you the opportunity to stay at home?
Yes, it did, in an area I was familiar with.
Well, I think it's important that I have a job. It's also important that I also stand the possibility of being upgraded within the time limit that I have remaining in my 2 years as in a save pay status. Without the priority placement service, I probably would have still been on the caretaker force at Craig, and when the caretaker force at Craig expired, then I would have been out without a job. And
there are still about 115 ex-civilian employees at Craig now looking for jobs, but Mrs. Ward says that their task of finding those jobs will probably be easier than the city of Selma finding tenants for Craig. From Maxwell Air Force Base, this is Dave Rickey, WSFA TV News reporting.
Well, I started back in 10th grade. I ran for my high school, Winter Haven, down in Florida. I don't really know how, I just started running one day, he came out and got me, and I've enjoyed it ever since.
What do you enjoy about it?
I just like to stay in shape all the time, and I think that's one of the best ways too.
Okay, what brought you to Troy State?
Well, I heard that they had a good guys track team, and I figured, well, maybe I can start a girls. So here I am.
You knew at the time they didn't have a girls track team?
Yeah, I did know, but it didn't stop me because, I don't want to stop running here. I want to keep on.
Well, I felt like that it's a matter of common knowledge that I've been harassed over the last 11 years since I've been in office, in which I've been harassed and persecuted and that sort of thing, and I think that it was a grave injustice because like I said when the indictments first came out that I was not guilty of anything, and I've always held that contention that I was not guilty of anything, and I think that it was wrong to indict me, I mean, simply because I was a public official at that point. I think it was a grave injustice that had been done. It was a grave miscarriage of the judicial system.
Do you feel had the Attorney General not intervened that the indictment still would have been dropped against you?
I feel like perhaps they would have, because there was no substance to the indictments. I felt like, of course, the Attorney General, being what I consider to be a very fair person and one who believes in justice, I think that he spoke what was the truth, and of course he had already spoken that opinion before the indictments came out. But I don't think it was a matter of indicting me for anything. I think it was a matter of indicting me just to embarrass me along that line. Of course, I knew that it was simply an embarrassment all along.
There has been nothing official from Judge Johnson as to his decision. Word from him is expected shortly, and that is that Johnson will ask President Carter to withdraw his name as FBI director. Johnson's decision is expected to be based on the advice of his personal physician that he forget about the FBI directorship confirmation hearing scheduled for next January because he lacks necessary stamina right now. Johnson is said to be discouraged at his rate of recovery from surgery that he underwent last August, and he feels he is not recovering from that surgery as rapidly as he could, nor from the relapse he suffered last month. Sources say that Johnson is very desirous for the job of FBI director, but he cannot run a top-notch operation now, and that he feels it is only fair to himself, to the President, and to the Justice Department that he step aside. Further detail on Judge Johnson's decision will be revealed later on. From the Montgomery Federal Court Building, George Mitchell, WSFA TV News.
When do you expect to talk to him again?
Well, I don't know. Sometime in the next few days.
Did you speak with him yesterday?
Yes, we talked to him.
What did you all talk
I
about?
don't have any statement to make. I told you that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, John.
70%, the barometer 30.12 and falling. Sunrise tomorrow, 6:28, setting at 4:40. And at 7 this morning, Lake Martin was showing no change from yesterday. Lake Jordan's level was up 0.2 of a foot. The forecast, as we see this live shot of Montgomery's downtown area getting ready for the parade, increasing cloudiness tonight with a chance of thunder showers by morning, rain and occasional thunderstorms Wednesday and Wednesday night, possibly heavy at times, then decreasing cloudiness on Thursday. Tonight's low 63, the high tomorrow 69, and the chance of rain is only 30% tonight, but then about 80% tomorrow and 70% tomorrow night. That's the weather, Bob.
Thank you, Dan. Despite the threat of rain in the forecast this evening, the annual Christmas parade here in Montgomery is still on schedule. Dave Rickey of our staff is standing by at Court Square, where the Christmas tree will be lighted in just a few minutes. And Dave, how does the crowd look?
I tell you what, Bob, it's really big. I'm really surprised people hear this early. You know, not only do we have the Christmas tree lighting up real soon, but we also have the parade that will be coming right down here. So in this area, people are ready to get a view of both, you know, the tree and the parade. So it's really big. The choir now from the Fraser Memorial United Methodist Church is going to get underway with some Christmas carols to try to put everybody in a festive mood. And I think that they're already there, to be honest with you.
Well, Dave, what all is going to be involved in the parade tonight, briefly?
We have probably about a dozen bands from around the area, high school and college bands. And then, of course, we'll have the clowns, and the Shriners are going to be out here with several motorcades and the motorcycles and that sort of thing. And then, of course, the floats. I don't know how many we have, but I know there's going to be quite a few, including one from WSFA.
Okay, thank you very much. Dave Rickey with a live report from downtown Montgomery, getting ready for the annual Christmas parade coming up in just a few moments.
At the Little Four tournament in Clinton, in the opening round, it'll be Newberry taking on Wofford and Erskine facing Presbyterian. Both Wofford and PC are looking for their first win of the season. But the big one in this area is the Gamecocks taking on Alabama. Phil Snow, sports director WSFA TV in Birmingham, and Joe Petty are standing by with Alabama SID Kurt McNair. Gang?
Thank you very much, Terry. Working with me tonight in tonight's ball game will be Phil Snow on my far right. He is the sports director, WSFA in Montgomery, Alabama. And with us is Kirk McNair, who's the sports information director at the University of Alabama. Alabama's had a great tradition in basketball in the last 5 seasons. You've won 20 or more games. Last year, 25-6. But this year, you've lost 3 ball players. It's been tough replacing these guys?
Very, very difficult, particularly T.R. Dunn, who was a 4-year starter and a great player. In fact, last year here in Carolina Coliseum, he was MVP in the Carolina Classic. And he's been very difficult to replace at guard. We lost 2 inside players, our center, Ricky Brown, who was a 4-year regular, and Don Bowerman. So we graduated 3 players and one at every position. That makes it awfully tough.
How would you compare, Phil? You saw this great Alabama team last year, and you saw them against the Russians in an exhibition game. How would you compare the strengths of last year with this year?
Well, they're a much less experienced team this year than they were last year, and against the Russians last Friday night, they went up against a 7'4" pivot man who is really a good player, and I think he neutralized most of the inside play of Alabama, and they didn't have a particularly good game, but I don't think they thought that was a big game for them. They wanted to see a lot of people. They played 12 men in 10 minutes of the game to see how people reacted. It was more of an exhibition game. I think they'll be more serious about it tonight.
Do you think Coach will substitute as freely as he did against the Russians?
No, I doubt it very seriously. He had been thinking that perhaps this year's team was maybe 12 men deep, and practice had indicated that might be the case, but the game, I think, indicated we're 7 or 8 men deep.
Thanks a lot, Kirk. So tonight at 8 o'clock, coming your way right here on Channel 10, the game between the University of South Carolina and Alabama, the Crimson Tide. Alabama, its first regular game of the season for the Gamecocks, 1-0 in the season. See you at 8 o'clock. Now back to Terry Chick.
Thank you very much, Joe. And finally, tonight in high school soccer, it was Irma over Columbia High, 4-0. That does it for right now. I'll see you again tonight at 11. Remember, watch that game. Now back to Luke.
I wouldn't mind playing professional football.
Have any preferences on who you'd like to play with?
No, no preferences. Wherever I can, you know.
Wherever they want you, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you had a good year. You came a little short of the 1,000 yards, but is that really important?
Well, that wasn't really important. The main thing was our team was winning. We had a real good record, and I mean that wasn't really important.
Thomas, congratulations on being the high school athlete of the year.
Thank you.
I know a lot of guys up front you want to congratulate for doing such a good job for you these 3 years. You've gained a lot of yards and had a lot of guys helping you.
Yes, I have. I would very much like to thank my offensive line as well as my quarterback, Mike Buchanan.
He's a pretty good fella, huh?
Yes, he is.
He knows when to call the play, huh?
Yes, sir. And, you know, lots of times you get running backs, the good quarterback that's greedy, but he didn't mind pitching it. That will help me a lot.
All right. You got to get the ball, huh?
Yes, sir.
Thomas, a lot of colleges want you to come and play for them. Where have you visited so far, and where will you go in the next few weeks?
Well, so far I visited Alabama, Kentucky, and hopefully I'll visit Auburn, Alabama, Arkansas, and Arizona.
I see. Do you have any idea when you're going to make a decision to which school you're going to choose?
Well, no, right now I'm just kind of playing it by ear and just hope for the best.
There has been a little bit, Bill. The checks are beginning to come into the Montgomery area now, and we have had some customers who did not know, what the check was. It's coming in postcard form, and it is a negotiable check. All you need to do is take it to wherever you cash your checks, endorse it on the back, and that's it. People have called the business office wanting to know what it is and how they go about cashing it. And, of course, what it is their refund check, and they cash it just like they would any other check. We've had some people who have thought that this was a bill from the telephone company. Some people have called the business office rather irate, saying that they just got through paying their telephone bill, and here they're getting another one. We even had one fellow who came into the public office yesterday prepared to pay $58. He had a refund check for $58 and put it up on the counter and got his money out, and he was ready to pay it. This is not a bill, it is a refund check. We had a fellow in Opelika who called our business office there and asked what it was, and we told him, and he asked, he described what it looked like and everything. We said, yeah, that's the refund check. And he said, well, there are about 4 or 5 in the wastebasket right next to me here. So, for goodness sake, we don't want customers to throw it away, and we want them to realize that this is the refund check that they've been hearing about for the past couple of months.
What are your plans in the future, Judge? Are you going to remain on the bench?
Yes.
And you feel
This is more or less controlled environment here, and up there it isn't. You're like on an ice floe, You go where it moves. And yes, I'm going to remain in the bench.
Do you have?
I plan to get well. It's just a slow process.
In your discussions with Attorney Bell, did you recommend yourself to any other person that might be stepping into the nomination?
No. Didn't I?
Have you talked to President Carter?
Not today.
Not today?
That's right.
Yesterday?
Not recently.
How did he take your withdrawal?
Beg your pardon?
Did he have any comment about having your name withdrawn from the nomination?
Well, you'll have to talk to the president about that.
But he did say something to you?
No, not directly.
A friend close to the family, Judge, said this is the hardest decision you've had to make.
Who said that?
Good friend of yours.
Yeah, well, it was very hard. It was very hard.
Will you remain in Montgomery, or will the problem be?
Yes, of course.
Sure. Indefinitely?
I hope so.